Hey friends, Mike and Jess here.
And welcome to Regeneration Nation TV. Today we're reacting to a video titled "The Only Battle Fought Between American Soldiers in World War II, the Battle of Bamber Bridge Explained." This is from The Front.
The Front. We've got links for their channel and this original video down below in the description, pinned comment, all that. Make sure you go and watch it. Go support them. So yeah, we don't really know much about this. It wasn't a battlefield in the traditional sense. This was a racially charged armed confrontation between I don't know why I read that as between black and white American soldiers. And it took place not in Germany or France, but in Bamber Bridge, a quiet village in Lancashire, England on June 24th to 25th, 1943.
You got this.
The incident is one of the most striking examples of racism black U.S. troops faced, not only from enemy forces, but their own military comrades and commanders. This is something I never knew about.
No, definitely not. Bamber Bridge does sound familiar, but before this, I couldn't tell you why it would sound familiar.
Wow. That's crazy. And these are the kind of things that they don't really, I don't know, they don't teach in school. To be fair. Maybe they taught it in the college history courses. I didn't take those ones, so nope. I took one actually, one semester. That's all I made it through. So to be fair, they might have got to it. Okay, they might have got to it, but in the schooling that I got, they didn't, and so that's what I'm going off of here. Regardless, let's get into this video.
We're being schooled right now. It's never too late.
I'm sorry. Let's get into it. I get nervous. I just keep rambling. All right, let's go.
We've done videos on friendly fire in World War II, Imperial Japan's inter-service hostilities, and Allied forces such as the Americans and Soviets going toe-to-toe. But did you know that 2 American units fought and shot each other over in northwest England in June 1943? This is the story of the so-called Battle of Bamber Bridge, a skirmish fueled by beer and no small amount of racism.
I do like that intro. That was pretty sweet, actually.
It is a cool intro and all that, but man, it's like you don't know what it's like to be around back then. It's it's so glamorized in a way, the music and the editing. But man, to be back then, we would just shit our pants and then die very quickly.
Yeah.
Until US President Harry S. Truman issued Executive Order 9981 in July 1948, the branches of the United States Armed Forces suffered from varying degrees of racial segregation. The first clause of the order read as follows: "It is hereby declared that there shall be equality of treatment and opportunity for all persons in the armed services without regard to race, color, religion, or national origin." Of course, the order didn't erase racism in the military, and it was put into effect some 5 years after the Battle of Bamber Bridge. Throughout World War II, some 2 million American servicemen passed through or were stationed in the UK for a variety of purposes, and they weren't always on the job. They often toured the UK and interacted with its denizens. Many American servicemen married English women and brought them back to America when the war was over. More often than not, African Americans were well received by the British populace, at least at the start. When more racist white Americans poured into the UK, they imposed their aholery upon the British, refusing, for example, to eat at a restaurant that served black people. According to Roy Otterly's article, Dixie...
What'd you say?
Aholery.
Yeah, that was a good term.
That was a very good term.
I mean,
for that.
that's what you call it. There's not much of a better term that you can wrap somebody up like that in.
At a restaurant that served black people. According to Roy Otterly's article, Dixie Invades Britain, which was published in 1942, American observers who were in the UK in 1942 when the first contingents arrived from America saw amicable and smooth relations develop between the Negro troops and their British hosts. So much so that certain white American soldiers became openly resentful, and they lost no time in attempting to discipline the British people. According to an article by historian Joseph Dickinson, The resent was due, at least in part, to the frustration of white American soldiers who saw how open British women were to relationships with black Americans and simply couldn't handle it without chucking a massive tantrum. In the words of author Graham Smith, many young girls found the blacks fascinating, appreciating their attentiveness and good manners.
Wow.
The United States...
That's actually so funny, because we had a girl in our friend group, Katie, that when I was growing up, and none of us dated her. She was just like one of us. And she only dated black guys. And one day, one of us asked her, like, why do you only date black guys? She doesn't date any of us, not because we were all white, but just because, I don't know, we grew up with her and she was just like a friend.
You're probably like brothers to her,
That was literally her answer. They're nicer, they're more well-mannered. It literally comes full circle here. I don't know.
Army Air Forces, or USAAF, the precursor to the US Air Force, operated out of more than 200 airfields in the UK, each base housing an average of 2,500 men. Among the American units which flew out of the UK was the 8th Army Air Force, and one of the 8 supporting units was the 1511th Quartermaster Truck Regiment, a racially segregated unit composed of African American soldiers. These men were housed at Air Force Station 569, or more colloquially, Adam Hall, in the village of Bamber Bridge in Lancashire, England. Their job was to deliver, via trucks, war material to other air bases in the area. When they were off duty, some of the men enjoyed a pint or two at a watering hole called Ye Old Hob Inn, where they were more than amicable with the local English. When the white Americans started cracking down on this, demanding the establishment of a colour bar in the village's 3 pubs put up signs reading "Black Troops Only." Racism, it seemed, would not be tolerated in Bamber Bridge.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the
First of all,
234th...
that just annoys me at the white American troops that were coming in and thinking that they could take over another country and tell them how they should be because of their hatred. Like, I will never want to live in that kind of environment. I would never know what it's like, but just hearing that, like the audacity that you have, that you think that you can go to another country and because you believe a certain way, you can just tell them to shut it down right now. Like, this is not proper. Like,
yeah, I mean, this is different, but we've reacted to other videos about the ingredients in foods, the workers' rights. And so like American-owned businesses will go to try to operate in the UK, and it's like they can't, and they try to lobby to like change workers' rights over there, or no, you do need to allow these shitty ingredients in your food. And no, they just put their foot down. It's very similar to this. It's like, well, if you can't operate by our rules, then you probably shouldn't operate here.
Yeah.
Would not be tolerated in Bamber Bridge. Unfortunately, the 234th US Military Police Company, which operated on the north side of the village, were especially sore about the attentive, well-mannered African American men winning the hearts of Bamber Bridge's women. The MPs had standing orders to arrest American soldiers who were out without a pass, who weren't dressed properly, or who were acting disorderly. On the 24th of June 1943, just days after the race riot back in Detroit, Michigan, they tried to use their power to give the black soldiers of the 1511th a hard time. The consequences were disastrous. While the specifics might vary between sources, the core of the story remains the same. Possibly because an African American soldier tried to purchase a beer after last orders had been called, MPs Roy A. Windsor and Ralph F. Ridgway entered Ye Old Hob Inn on the night of the 24th and tried to cite one Private Eugene Nunn for being without a pass and for wearing the wrong uniform. An argument broke out, and the locals, as well as British servicewomen of the Auxiliary Territorial Service, sided with Nunn and the 1511th. An unnamed white British soldier also chimed in, saying, "Why do you want to arrest them? They're not doing anything or bothering anybody." The heat increased, and one Private Lynn M. Adams of the 1511th brandished a bottle. In retaliation, Windsor drew his gun. It might have gone down then and there had not a black sergeant by the name of William Byrd managed to defuse the situation. The MPs got into their jeep and were on their way out, but Private Adams was mad and probably a little drunk, and decided it would be a good idea to throw his bottle at the jeep. The MPs were outnumbered
gosh.
and chose not to retaliate at that moment. Instead, they gathered some reinforcements and ambushed the men of the 1511th as they were walking back to Adam Hall later that night.
Oh my
way.
gosh.
A fight ensued on the road, possibly with the MPs wielding billy clubs. The 1511th fought back with bottles and loose cobblestones. Supposedly to stop Private Adams from hurling a stone at him, MP Carson W. Bosman drew his gun and fired. The bullet struck the private in the neck, but he wasn't killed. The fight soon subsided, and the men of the 1511th made it back to Adam Hall mostly in one piece.
Ugh.
Dang,
At some
man,
point-
until that point, it's like, I don't know. You can definitely kill someone with your bare fist, but like the billy club at this time, I feel like it's just you're going out for a good scrap, for lack of better words. You know what I mean? With no intention of it going that far. But then the fact that you have weapons, I mean, it happens all the time here in the U.S. It's just like a situation. I mean, man, in my old neighborhood, there was a situation where two guys across the street from each other were arguing over wrestling, and they end up shooting each other and killing each other. And it's like they were friends before that, and they talked about wrestling. And I'm sure when they started the argument about wrestling, they don't plan on shooting each other. And
Yeah.
it just when you have that weapon available, even if you're just going out for a good scrap, one of you guys has a gun, you're gonna pull it out eventually.
511th made it back to Adam Hall mostly in one piece. At some point during the chaos, a rumor spread throughout the village. A black soldier had been shot in the back and the MPs were out on a manhunt. There seems to be a little confusion about what happened next, but the resounding narrative is that a pissed off crowd of some 200 black men rallied at Adam Hall, standing against their white senior officers and calling for war. It's possible they would have stormed the village en masse, but the 1511th's only black officer, Lieutenant Edwin D. Jones, was able to calm them down, for the time being. It wasn't long after that, however, that about a dozen MPs drove into Adam Hall in several jeeps and an improvised armoured car fitted with a machine gun. This prompted the 1511th to seize about 2/3 of the firearms stored at Adams Hall and either take up defensive positions or drive or run out into the night to meet the MPs head on.
Jeez.
The locals were instructed to stay inside, and over the next 3 to 4 hours, a firefight raged throughout the Bamber Bridge area. A private of the 1511th, one William Crossland, took a bullet and died, while 4 or 5 other soldiers and 2 MPs were injured. It could have been much, much worse, all things considered. Following this mess, 2 trials were conducted. In the first, 4 of the African American men involved in the fight in which Private Adams was shot were found guilty of various offenses, dishonorably discharged, and sentenced to hard labor. In the second trial, 28 of the 35 defenders were convicted of offenses such as ignoring orders, failing to disperse, rioting, mutiny, seizing arms, and firing on officers and MPs.
What?
They were sentenced to as many as 15 years, but further reviews saw a reduction in these sentences and the release of some of the men. 15 of them returned to duty in June 1944, just in time for the Normandy landings. All in all, the longest period served by any of the men was just 13 months. Again, things could have been much worse. The commander of the 8th Army Air Force, General Ira C. Eaker, believed much of the blame fell on the MPs, whose blatant racism inspired the entire affair.
Absolutely.
The white officers of the 1511th were also largely to blame, as they did a terrible job of trying to pacify the rioting men at Adam Hall and also refused to tend to the wounded among them. At least one of them was reportedly drunk. Following the incident, the 1511ths and other trucking units' ranks were purged of racist officers, and black officers were integrated into the MP units. Things got slightly better after that. We're interested to know what you think though. Had you heard of the Battle of Bamber Bridge before today?
No.
Why do you think it happened? Lastly, can you think of any similar battles which took place during the war? And shout out to my boy Kamal for suggesting this ages ago. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something new.
Yeah, I definitely did. That's so I mean, it's something that I already knew that was going on during that time period, but not to that extent. Like, you're already going into war. These are soldiers that you're calling to go to this country to help fight for something that's of a bigger picture. And there's hatred and there's pride involved in that. Like, with a lot of men, like, I have a lot of pride. Like, when we fight, you'll be able to tell me, like, I hold on to stuff. I don't want to tell him that I'm wrong, and I don't want to admit it, but I'm just saying, like, men have so much stronger of that. And when you get a bunch of them together, like, it's just, there's cattiness with women, but then there's like pride with men, and they have egos, and they want to, if they believe something, they want to push something, especially when you combine hatred, you combine alcohol into that. That's so awful. And during that time period, there's just a lot of people that believe a certain thing about a certain race, and that's what they believe, and they choose to hate on that. And they are so jealous of them taking their women. They're jealous of them having a good time when they don't think that they should be allowed to. But these are men that are fighting alongside of you. You should be viewing them as comrades. These are people that are risking their lives to fight for something bigger, like you are. And the fact that the people in charge were let to just go about the way that they wanted to, and the way that they see fit from their views, it was their personal views. It didn't have a hold on the military. Like, not everybody in the military was racist like them. And that's just horrible to me. Like, a bunch of men who were having a good time on their time off from serving our country had to fight more after that. Like, that's just heartbreaking to me. Like, you hear it all the time. I know of a lot of stories, especially with racism involved. There's a lot of unfair things that happen because of what people said and what people chose to believe. But that's just incredible to me that a whole fight with actual guns and people dying and being injured happened outside of the actual war. Like,
it's crazy that it went to that extent, for sure. It's, you know, you have to let people know about this stuff. I feel like this stuff's not taught enough. It's not openly talked about because people are afraid of who's going to be offended or anything like that. And a lot of the statues and a lot of the things here, especially, they try to get covered up, and you pretend like it didn't happen, but it did happen. And we've progressed since then. Things aren't perfect. But we've made strides forward, and a lot of the people who are at the forefront of making those strides forward, it's because they're educated. They're not closed off to these things. They're well traveled, and so they see that, like, oh, we're not different. You know what I mean? It's really hard to be racist or prejudiced when you're well traveled.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, we're not different. So, I think that it's important to keep these things circulated, keep them talked about. Don't worry about who you're going to offend. You need to keep these things talked about, or else we're doomed to repeat them.
Yeah.
You know, we're all going to forget that these things happened and then repeat them all over again.
Absolutely.
So
if we're not talking about stuff and saying the truth out loud, that's where the violence happens. If you're not speaking and communicating, even if you disagree with somebody, that's where the violence starts. You're not communicating with that person. You're just going ahead and acting on impulse. And I feel like that's more dangerous than talking. Like, that's crazy.
It's crazy. You could be hateful towards another person, but then once you get to know them a little bit, it changes everything. And so, yeah, people were just so stuck in their bubbles back then. They didn't know anything outside of that, because they didn't bother to go and learn more outside of that. Now with the internet, like, if you're still racist or prejudiced in 2025 with the internet, it's just because you, like, really want to be. Like, I could see somebody who is raised in a racist environment by racist people. You don't have internet. You don't have anything else. And it's instilled into you as a kid and as a teenager and to a young adult. It's hard to get out of that. But now with the internet, it's like, if you still are holding on to those kind of thoughts, it's like you're just, I don't know. You're
hateful.
willfully ignorant.
Yeah.
Willfully hateful.
And you're not open-minded at all to learn something new. But that's crazy. That's heartbreaking that even happened. But I am happy to be introduced to that. I never heard of, like, that actual Battle of Bamber Bridge. I've heard of Bamber Bridge. That sounds familiar to me, but yeah, I don't
know. It doesn't to me, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe you've heard it from somewhere. Maybe it's been like name dropped or something.
Yeah, it has to be just that it's a place. Not
Maybe it
like...
was in a country song.
Did you
just saying? We won't go any further.
Okay.
I don't know where I'm going. All right, y'all. Bringing a little levity to the end of the reaction. Hoping you enjoyed that. She's covering her face. I don't know why. I didn't even say anything. All right. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye, friends.
Peace.
I'm not scared of your love, so show me it. Let